If you've been thinking about setting up a shop on Etsy, then you might not know where to start, or you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed. Here's a few steps to help you set up your shop on Etsy. The first step is to get planning. This is what you need to do before opening your shop. You'll want to plan things out and take time to prepare. The first thing you'll want to decide is, what are you going to sell? This should be something that you care about, are passionate about, and interests you. Doing this should bring you motivation and lets your customers know that you care about the items you are making. Are you making something that's been a hobby of yours for years, or are you deciding now to start making something new? If you know you want to sell something that's a talent or hobby you've been practicing for a while now, and you know it's right, then go for it. But many times, I see people open a shop a bit impulsively to sell items that they maybe have never tried making before. They may make what everyone else is already doing, and then get frustrated that they aren't getting any sales, and then quit 2 months later. To avoid this, then practice before selling. Keep in mind that there are over 4 million people selling on Etsy, most of which have been making and selling for years. One example is with resin. Resin making is still a huge trend, and lots of people started selling these items a few years ago. And I've seen plenty of cases where people don't mix the resin right, leading to customers getting wet and goopy resin pieces. Even if you're not new to making something, there will be mistakes. It's a learning process for everyone. Next, you're going to want to do some research. Some things you might want to look up are tips and videos for advice. You'll also want to know the laws, policies, and safety guidelines for your state. You should also know what your materials are made out of. A good example of this is the shimmer bath powder that I make on my shop. One of my ingredients is mica, and the mica I use has titanium and iron oxides, which are known to cause cancer when airborne and inhaled over time. This is why I wear a respirator mask when making my products. It's also important that you read over Etsy's policies, because you agree to these policies when you open a shop on Etsy. These policies will tell you what can be sold on Etsy, seller standards, what to do if you're being harassed, and how reviews are handled. You can find the links to these pages in the description. Next, I'll go over Etsy fees. There's 2 fees, one for the listing and one for the transaction. The listing fee is 20 cents and the transaction fee is 6.5% of the sale. The listing fee can be a little confusing, so I'll give an example that might help. Okay, so let's say you make one necklace and post the listing. You'll be charged 20 cents. If it sells within 4 months, you will only pay that 20 cents. After 4 months, the listing will renew and you will be charged 20 cents again. Now say you make a new listing to sell 6 of the same necklace, and they all sell within 4 months. You will pay 20 cents over time for all 6 items to be listed. So you'll pay 20 cents for the initial listing. When you get your first sale, there will be no listing fee because you've already paid it, and then you pay 20 cents for every other necklace that sells after that. So you're charged 20 cents for every quantity. In this case, you pay 20 cents 6 times for the 6 necklaces that sold. You are only charged when posting a new listing or when an item sells. So, are the fees really worth it? Many sellers are upset over Etsy increasing their fees this year from 5% to 6.5%. For me though, I think it's still worth it because Etsy brings around 80% of my sales. I've tried selling on a few other platforms, but my sales never come close to what I make on Etsy. I recommend comparing fees on other selling sites or apps, and you can also try selling on different platforms to see what works best for you. Something to stay away from is copyrighted and commercial images. Etsy will close your shop with no warning if you break intellectual property guidelines. Keep in mind that just because someone else is doing it does not mean it's okay, and just because someone is using a copyrighted photo does not mean they're breaking policy. Also, US copyrights only apply to people within the US. I know it all seems a bit overwhelming, and it does become easier with time and practice. Running a respectful, ethical, and quality shop requires work and time. If you really care about building up your business, then I recommend research and really understanding what it is you're doing as a maker and a seller. There's a few things you need before you can open your shop. The first is a shop name. Then you'll need to add at least one listing. For a listing, you'll need things like photos, a description, prices, and shipping information. This includes the package size and its weight. You'll also need to set up banking information before Etsy publishes your shop. One of the things you'll have to figure out for your shop is shipping your packages. I use Etsy shipping because it's the cheapest shipping option for me. Your order will ship with USPS, and Etsy will calculate everything for you, which is especially helpful if you plan to ship internationally. There is a fee. Etsy charges 5% of the shipping cost. You'll also want to make sure your packages ship safely, for example, securing liquids or glass items. A great place to get packing materials is Enclose, which has affordable, sustainable packaging. I'll share a link in the description. Another topic I'll go over is free shipping. Should you offer it? Etsy gives priority search results for people who offer free shipping. Most sellers put the cost of shipping in their items, so it isn't really free shipping. Whether you do this will depend on the price of your items. For example, I don't offer free shipping because I don't want to raise my prices, and I would go out of business if I paid for shipping because most of my products are under $15. So it could be something to consider if you sell more expensive items or if you are trying to increase your sales. For your listings, you'll want to take nice photos with bright light and a white background. One tip is to take photos outside or near a window. Also, have a variety showing different variations, angles, or uses, and be creative. Etsy prefers images on white backgrounds that are high quality and have bright lighting. I wanted to stand out when I first started my shop, so I used black backgrounds. But that didn't last long, and I switched to white. Don't feel like you have to fit into a box to sell on Etsy. Let your products speak for themselves. Are photos really that important? The answer is yes, because people mostly judge the item based on the photo. You want your photos to be eye-catching and to stand out in search results. But I definitely see shops with low-quality photos, and they have way more sales than I do. So who knows? But never underestimate an aesthetically pleasing photo, especially on social media. Another factor to figure out is pricing your products. First, determine the cost of your item by dividing the price by the quantity. For example, $30 for a 19-pound bag of baking soda. You would divide 30 by 19, which equals $1.57 per pound. Another example is $10 for 6 jewelry pendants. 10 divided by 6 equals $1.66 for one pendant. Typically, you will want to sell an item for 2 or 3 times the cost. Also, keep in mind Etsy fees if you are selling low-priced items. Use the description to add extra information about your product, like the materials you use, measurements, or instructions. Something to know about descriptions is that many people don't read these, which is why photos are important. Make sure the description is easy to read by making bullet points. I recommend putting important information in the photos, like the dimensions of the item. So, how many items should you list in your shop? I say the more the better. The more items you have, the more likely you will appear in search results. Variety is also good because more people will be able to find your shop. One problem that occurs when people start off new is that they buy a bunch of supplies and then typically want to see a return before buying more or expanding. Depending on what you sell and how competitive that area is, having a few items might not be enough. Now let's talk about taxes. Most people recommend declaring Etsy sales on your taxes regardless of how much you make, but you must declare your sales if you take in at least $20,000 in a year, and this includes fees and shipping, not just your net growth. Etsy sends the IRS your sales info if you make in more than $20,000 in a year. It can be pretty complicated if you don't know what you're doing. The only other info I will provide here is that you need to fill out a Schedule C or Form 1040 for a sole proprietorship. I did mine online and used a site like TaxSlayer to calculate it for me. Sole proprietorship means your account is connected through your social security number, not a business license. So, we went over a lot today. If you're feeling overwhelmed, just take it one step at a time. And remember, do research, be creative, work through the mistakes, ask questions, and don't give up. If you're truly passionate about what you're making, then it'll work out. Check out my next Etsy video on sales, customers, and reviews. Thanks for watching!